The moment you lift a weight, you are actually going to be triggering mechanical tension.
But what happens inside your muscles when that tension is applied?
Picture a rope under tension. The tighter you're pulling that rope, the more tension that it is going to experience.
Inside your muscles, tiny sensors detect that stress and trigger a reaction.
These mechanosensors are kind of like motion detectors in a security system. They are detecting that tension.
But is your training actually sending the right signals?
If this protein synthesis, which is the repair portion, outpaces the muscle protein breakdown, your body is going to grow bigger and stronger over time.
But muscle hypertrophy isn't just one process. It's multiple signals working together.
We're going to break down each of them one by one because I think that it can be helpful next time you step into the gym. If you've ever wondered what's exactly happening inside of your body while you are lifting, then take a look. These are myofibrils, and they're the building blocks of your very muscular system. And this is basically hypertrophy in action right before your eyes. Today, I'm going to break down exactly how muscle growth works so that you guys can train smarter without actually having to train any harder, so that you can build as much size and strength as you want as efficiently as possible. So muscle growth, also known as hypertrophy, is just the enlargement of an organ or part. In this case, we're talking about our muscular system, but this happens in a response to resistance training where your muscle fibers actually grow thicker and larger. But how does this actually work? You guys can think of your muscles like a construction site, and bear with me here, but think of the two workers named actin and myosin. They're little proteins inside of your muscles which are responsible for every single muscle contraction. They're basically going to be sliding past each other like interlocking gears. And when they do so, they're generating the force required for movement. But honestly, guys, it's not just about lifting weights. It's about overloading your muscular system beyond its normal capacity. And when you do so, you're basically sending a signal to your body saying, hey, we got to get bigger and stronger next time in order to evolve and handle this new stress. But your muscles don't actually grow in the gym while you're lifting weights. It's actually growing outside of the gym. And I'm sure you guys have heard that a million times, but it's growing in response to that very stress that we're putting it under in the gym. The moment you lift a weight, you are actually going to be triggering mechanical tension. More on that later, but it is going to be the fundamental trigger for muscular hypertrophy. Just picture a rope under tension. The tighter you're pulling that rope, the more tension that it is going to experience and the tighter that it's going to get. Well, your muscles are actually working in the same way. When they're forced to stretch and contract under external tension, then they are going to be sending many biological signals to the rest of the body, which is starting a chain reaction that is going to lead to growth. However, when you're just yanking on a rope, you're not actually increasing the size. You're actually just pulling it apart more profusely. Well, that's kind of like with your muscles too. You're going to need some recovery and adaptation in the mix in order to make them grow bigger and stronger. So as your body repairs these damaged and brittle fibers, then it is going to reinforce them further above baseline so that it can handle future exposures to this stress or tension. And that's basically muscle hypertrophy in a nutshell. It's your body's way to reinforce its internal scaffolding, if you will. But muscle hypertrophy isn't just some magical singular process. It's actually the culmination of many different processes, all culminating and working together. In fact, I have 3 different biological signals that your body utilizes in order to trigger hypertrophy. And we're going to break down each of them one by one because I think that it can be helpful next time you step into the gym. Think of mechanical tension like the primary driver, the one that really gets the ball rolling for the whole muscle building process. Force that muscles experience when they're stretched out or contracted during resistance training. So when you lift weights, your muscle fibers actually have these things called mechanosensors, which are like tiny little molecular structures made up of integrin, which are embedded in your very muscle cell. These mechanosensors are kind of like motion detectors in a security system. They are detecting that tension, and when they detect it, they are sending a signal to the rest of your body that it's time to grow and become more improved. This leads to muscle protein synthesis, and I'm sure that you guys have heard this term before, but to make it simple, it is just a process where your body is going to build up and repair damaged muscle proteins. And if this protein synthesis lipolysis, which is the repair portion, outpaces the muscle protein breakdown, which is training in the gym, then your body is going to grow bigger and stronger over time. If you've ever felt sore after a workout, I'm sure that all of you guys have, especially because we have all been new trainees at one point or another. Maybe you even are one now, but that's besides the point. This soreness is creating micro tears in your muscle fibers, and this is especially accentuated with eccentric training. Now, it sounds bad, and I know that it feels bad, especially after like a heavy leg day, because it can persist for days and days and days, and it feels like it's never going to end. But it is actually a good thing because it means that your body is repairing and it's growing. Now, this repair activates satellite cells, which are very key to growth. These satellite cells lay dormant between the basal lamina, which is a thin protective layer, and the sarcolemma, which is a muscle fiber's outer membrane. Satellite cells are triggered by muscle damage, and they're kind of like the emergency responders. They just pull up to the site, to the damaged muscle fibers, and then reinforce them to the best of their abilities. However, I'd just like to quickly highlight that more muscle damage doesn't always lead to more growth. In fact, if you overdo it, like you do a ton of eccentrically based training, which is going to cause more muscle damage, then that is actually going to lead to some recovery problems and perhaps even overtraining and injury if you are really pushing your limits. This is why balancing multiple components is really key, and you don't really want to be overdoing one thing or another. If you're going to overdo anything, overdo mechanical tension, just because that is a tried and true principle, but really use muscle damage as more of a secondary factor. So anybody who has lifted before has felt that really intense burning feeling that you get when you're lifting kind of like lighter loads to your 1 rep max, but for very, very high repetitions. The technical term for that is metabolic stress, and it is the buildup of lactate, hydrogen ions, and other byproducts in the muscle cell. This is going to trigger cell swelling, where your cells literally swell up, stretching the cellular membrane and having another signal for growth. It's kind of like inflating a balloon. The more pressure that you put inside, the more the structure is going to expand. And this is why bodybuilders and avid lifters like to do like the higher repetition with the shorter rest breaks type of training, because that is metabolic training, and it is going to cause your muscle cells to swell up and have that more pumped up appearance. That is what the pump is. But honestly, I gotta be transparent. Just like with muscle damage, it is not as important, not nearly as important as mechanical tension. So instead of just focusing on chasing the pump or chasing that muscle damage, you should kind of treat them as like a byproduct, which are second to mechanical tension. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.